Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to America Show. Your host, robnoerr. Saturday edition, baby. Yeah. So I've been trying to keep up on these debate reviews. I'll explain more of it later, but I'm doing very well, Huey. So I figured, why not? We'll do one on a Saturday here. Mr. Forehead? Me? Oh, Zen's forehead. I do have a forehead, though. It is true. I've never had anyone call me Mr. Forehead, but I don't know if I fixed the dono bar. I tried to reset it, but I did that yesterday and it didn't work. So I don't know what the hell the problem is. Uh, Look at this. All the OGs, Wade Boggs, Zen's Forehead, Xphobic, Raceland, Polly Shortcuts. Yeah, we're gonna start clipping that 11-hour debacle I had with Pisco. It's so crazy. Like, my editor Black Elk does such an amazing job. I don't even have an eye for how to clip stuff. Like, should I clip it like in like little 5-minute segments? Like just the 5-minute segment where Pisco just struggles when I'm like, why shouldn't Republicans pack the court? And he's like, But then people were like, why didn't you play the bigger segment? All right, then we'll clip it out in an hour and 15 minutes. And people were like, why didn't you clip the bigger segment? It's like, okay, I guess you could go watch the entire 11-hour debate, which is also up on my channel. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like there was probably 9 or 10 moments in that debate where it was just completely devastating for him. And it's like, but you see, to watch that clip, it's like, it takes an hour just to get through one point, you know? I need a montage. I don't think I pay Black Elk enough to have him set up an entire montage. It'd be crazy. Well, anyways, it was fun. Talking about Jewish people. I'm so fucking sick and tired of people asking if we're going to be talking. Now I'm good. Now I'm speaking the truth. We give him table scraps. So we keep him in a cage in the basement with his computer and then feed him occasional table scraps. That's the gist. But now it's, it is what it is. But anyways, we've moved on. Thank you, John Way. I hope I did everyone proud. That's the point. Do I think what? Did I miss the first part of that? That's it. Oh, if you take all of the time, I mean, without the rubber, I think that probably takes 3-4 hours of the debate. Hey, it's working. How long, Nate? $5 says legendary chat. Everyone like the stream. The Dono Gold Bar is working today. Yay! We are going to be talking about the Jews today, I think. Destiny's been losing debate after debate against a 21-year-old drama straight YouTuber named Aiden Underground. Might be funny to look how badly Destiny's been losing. If it's about the drama, I gotta be clear. Like, I know I sort of broke my own rule in covering last week Connor talking about his divorce. I mean, you go watch that video. It's up. From the bottom of my heart, I mean this. I don't care for Connor. I feel terrible that he's getting a divorce. If there's a way for them to reconcile in a way that would be best for both of them and for their children, I really do hope that occurs. It may be too late. I don't know. Maybe they'll be better off with the divorce. I don't know. In general, though, I think it's a terrible thing going through a divorce. I hope I never have to go through it. I'm fortunate. I deeply love my wife, and I think things are going very good with us. I hope she feels the same. I think she does. But I was just sort of making fun of his, I don't know, his explanation and how cringe it was and stuff. And I did mention in that video a little of the Destiny drama slop at the end. I hesitate to get involved with it. Destiny's a degenerate piece of shit, period. That doesn't mean he's a criminal degenerate piece of shit. It doesn't mean that he's degenerate beyond any to the point where you're just like, I refuse to talk to the guy. The accusations, especially the newer ones about potentially age play, I'll leave it at that. You could leave your mind wonder if you don't know. Is it, if those accusations would be true, for me, that would be enough to be like, you are an irredeemable piece of shit. Maybe God will redeem you in his eyes. I would never. But the problem is, I don't know if it's true or not. I don't. And I got to be honest with you, I am not interested in going into a 50-hour rabbit hole. I just don't give a fuck. Destiny's political ideas are dog shit. He is an open degenerate. That's enough for me. Uh, so, I mean, I know this. If someone accused me of some heinous sexual impropriety, I would hope that people wouldn't just write me off and be like, the accusation's so severe, this guy's a piece of shit. I would hope that they would be like, okay, I want to see some level of proof. I hope. Um, so I try to give other people that same courtesy. Now, if shit just like there's, if if it's definitively proven and easy to see, like, I don't know, your Vosh and your accidental horse porn folder pops up on the computer screen. Allegedly, that's what happened. That's one thing. But to dive down this rabbit hole, I just don't know. Oh, look at this. Conservative deal. Look at this. Thoughts on Spencer and Andrew beef? Nick defending Andrew? Carmelo Anthony trial? Lotto numbers tonight? We talked a lot about, we didn't talk a lot about the Carmelo Anthony trial. I thought I would start doing that Monday or maybe tomorrow night. The Richard Spencer Andrew stuff I talked a lot about. In fact, the last two shows were pretty much all about that. I guess, and I did talk a little about Nick defending Andrew. I will be as quick as possible when I say it. I think that there's two ways you could go about things. You could go about it in, I don't give a shit. The rules are set forth, but if someone wants to go outside the scope of those rules for a debate, fine, whatever. That's usually the approach I take, and that's how I find myself in situations like the debate I reviewed last night, which was me versus 5 people in Progressive Victory Pack, or at least connected or aligned with them, or it's how I end up in the debate I had with Bisco that's 11 hours, where he's getting coached by a philosophy bro and then has the moderator be a friend of the philosophy bro that's teaching him that he could keep appealing to. So it ends up usually in negative situations. Not everyone looks at the world or debate like I do. I'm just kind of like, yeah, shit, man, let's go. I don't care. I'm just trying to exchange ideas. Other people are looking for every little advantage they can and breaking rules, et cetera, tailoring topics exactly worded the way they want, so you can't argue the thesis of them, etc. So when you're a bigger streamer like Andrew or Destiny or Asmongold or Hassan, and there are people that have dedicated like their entire online presence to finding one little clip they can have of you to make you look like an asshole. Yeah, I understand why you want to be like, look, it's important that we agree to all of these things. Who is the moderator? What is the format for the debate? What is the exact wording of the debate? It's important to agree to all that shit beforehand. And if someone says at the last minute, I want to change that, I totally understand being like, okay, then I'm out. That's it. We've agreed upon this. You had every chance to have input before the debate. And this shit happens with Andrew a lot. So I totally respect and understand him. To me, it seemed like Richard was trying to be the big man. He was trying to throw his weight around. I'm the reason people are here and blah, blah, blah. And, Andrew's like, I'm not going to put up with it. And I believe Andrew was vindicated in the fact that Richard then starts intentionally violating terms of service, which is a big no-no, because that's trying to take away the livelihood of the people that you're interacting with. So fuck Richard for that. Then Richard proceeds to go on and talk shit on Andrew's family. Fuck him for that. And Nick, whatever you think of him as a person, or his ideas, etc., stuck up for Andrew and said, you don't do that. You don't attack people's children. So that's it. That's my feeling. And I respect Nick for that. Doesn't mean I don't think his idea of voting Democrat is absolute dog shit, but that's it. But if you want to hear more about that, go check out my last 2 live videos. Bat Fricker, $5 says bar test. It's working, baby. How Long Nate, $5 says, if I win the lotto tonight, I wouldn't tell anyone, but there would be signs. All of a sudden, How Long Nate just donates like $2 million. Like, what the fuck just happened? Carmelo Anthony trial, we're going to talk about that a little tomorrow. So, today we're going to do a debate review. Now, the specific debate is going to be, this was 8 months ago. So this was October 4th, 2025. But I had some people give me some suggestions on debates they thought were impactful or meaningful, still with issues today. And this was one that came up. Now, this is going to be before the invasion of Iran, or attack on Iran, or war with Iran, whatever you want to say. But it's going to really highlight, I think a lot of the people that are critical of Trump are highlighting that it's his foreign policy decisions, in particular what they see as too close of a relationship with Israel. I have not watched this debate. I know very, very little about Coleman Hughes. I'm just going to be straight up. Dave Smith, I like. I like Dave Smith. I've moderated a debate with Dave Smith. I, in another lifetime, was libertarian adjacent. I still have some libertarian leanings. I think Dave's could be quite funny. I've seen Dave struggle in debates, but one of the things I respect about Dave is he's willing to like dust himself off and get right back in there. And he doesn't seem to be interested in like what a lot of people are doing, which is like hiding behind other people. He goes out there and he's willing to debate people on huge platforms that have, you know, really impressive credentials and have won a lot of debates or very smart people. And I respect that. I'm not talking trash on Coleman. I'm really not. I literally don't know him. I don't know. So I have no reason to dislike him, I guess I could say. But I don't know much about him other than I've never watched one of his shows per se, but I've seen clips of him. To my knowledge, I have not seen any clips of this debate. I've heard people talk about one thing within this debate, but I'll let that go. But that's it. Now, we're going to start into the debate sometime, about 52 minutes. The entirety of the conversation is 3 hours and 20-something minutes. And this is going to be from Coleman Hughes' channel. So the first thing I want to do is thank Coleman and his channel and make sure that I put out there the link to the channel. And if you like him or if you like Dave Smith, you should really consider going out. They're both easy to find. There's the link to the specific video that we'll be looking on. But it's easy to find either of them. And now, I will be explaining at some point in the future exactly what I'm doing with these debates, the way I'm doing them different, why that's the case. But what I'm going to do right now is explain to you what I'm doing. The why will be for another day. If you saw my debate review with Nick Fuentes and Steven Crowder, you can notice that the format was a little different than how I normally do my live streams. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the dono bar and I'm going to not address the chat at all, probably for an hour to an hour and a half, if not longer. The reason is this is designed to be a standalone video that's not a live stream. Instead of just recording it, though, I figure I might as well do it live, and then I could talk to you all before and after, and my viewers could get a sneak peek of my review before the video comes out. I will still read all of your super chats after the debate review, but don't get pissed off like, why isn't Rob talking to me? I just asked Rob a question. Why isn't he talking to me? Why isn't he interacting with the chat? Because it would look bad for the edit. The point is that it's supposed to be like a one take. If you're not watching live, if you don't know me and you've never watched my show, and you just type in Dave Smith Coleman Hughes, my video pops up. I'll have a brief explanation of who I am that we've pre-recorded, and then it'll get right into it. That's sort of the idea. So it is not that I had a stroke or my computer crashed and I can't see the chat. That's not what's going on. I'm intentionally not reading the chat. Again, I will read all super chats afterwards, I promise, but that's sort of the idea behind it. Ultimately, I'm trying to grow different types of content. I'm going to start doing shorts as well. But I want to do content that looks like it's pre-recorded and not just live. I want to do content that's like shorts, and I want to do my live stream content. The content I like the best is the live stream. That's what I want to do. But it's hard to bring new people. How am I going to bring new people into an audience? Like, okay, who's this fat guy? Why is he arguing about court packing in an 11-hour debate? That's going to be a tough sell that someone just scrolling by is like, I think I'll give this 11-hour debate a chance. It's probably not going to happen. So in order to get people into interest in that, I'm trying to do shorter form content that's more accessible. That way, maybe more people decide, hey, I like this guy's short form content. I see he's live right now. Let's go over and see what's going on. So that's the purpose. Now, maybe people disagree and don't think it's worth doing, but I thought it's something we're going to try doing at least one of these debate reviews. Pretty much one a week is the attempt. So that's the idea. A couple super chats right before we get there. Werbs over on Rumble. Thanks so much, man. Says, just finished the Pisco debate. I don't know how you lasted 12 hours when he would say, this is red. Well, it's clearly green. Then 30 minutes later, him admitting, my definition is that green is red. Yeah, that was the whole thing. That's basically in a nutshell what the 11-hour debate was. So it's frustrating, but I thought it was important. And he kept saying, well, let's come back. I'm not interested in coming back. I'm not. Just so we're all clear. I haven't said this, but that's it, man. That's my debate with Pisco. That's it. I don't want him 2 weeks later, I challenge you to a debate. I sat there with 11 fucking hours with the moderator that you picked, that you constantly appealed to, going painstakingly through your, well, words are just utterances and I could define them however they want. I went through 11 hours of that bullshit and I fucking crushed you. And if Bisco thinks, oh no, I crushed Rob, he's welcome to think that. The proof is out there. Go ahead. I'm not interested. He kept saying, why don't you rework that and come back? This is it. I would have stayed there 17, 18 hours if necessary. That was it. Period. So that's why I stuck it out, and I was willing to keep going for more hours if necessary. That's it. So I know how it is. Feelings get hurt when you know you lost a debate and you want to rematch this, that, and the other. That's it. Not interested. It's fucking mind-numbing to sit through that shit and have to sit there and be like, oh, fucking, well, actually, when I say deterrence, I could also mean the opposite of deterrence, and it's equivocation for you to try to read a dictionary definition. It's all nonsense bullshit. And as he admitted at the end of the debate, it's just my preferences. My morality comes from my preferences, and my preferences, Democrats win, Republicans lose. That's 11 hours of just him trying to change definitions of words and backtrack on what he said and this and that and the other to get to that fundamental point. Democrats could, so they should win. That's it. So I don't think anyone could accuse it. Even if you think I did terrible and I lost, I don't think anyone could fucking accuse me of running from the debate or any shit like that. I let him pick the moderator that was friends with his coach that he kept appealing to for like sort of rules of formal logic and whatever. I stuck through that fucking debate for like 11 hours. That's it. So that's why I thought it was important to keep going, because I didn't want him to be like, oh, Rob left. Let's do it again. Let's do this push. That's it. Debate done. I have bigger fish to fry, if I'm totally honest, than people that are going to waste my time, that are trying to post-hoc justify the fact that they're just like, we think your side's evil, and so we should be able to do whatever the fuck we want to them because it's our preferences. I've given more time to that thought and that rationale and that person than probably most people would say was warranted. I think probably most people would be like, why the fuck did you, after 2 to 3 hours, they would have just thrown their hands up and said, what is the point of all of this? Just leave. But I stuck it out. I'm not saying I want bad things to happen to Bisco. I don't. I'm not saying that I think Bisco's the shittiest person in the world. Not saying that. I'm saying it is absolutely worthless to fucking debate someone that can't even, that not only won't have a mutually agreed definition of all of the important words within his syllogism, but says for you to attempt to actually use predefined like definitions like from the dictionary or something is equivocating. What is the point? What's the point? So, anyways, I hope that serves as an explanation, because I had more people than you would know reach out to me and be like, "What are you doing, dude? What the fuck are you doing? Like, you don't realize that this is just a fucking joke?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I wanted to do it one time. One time. Just so I can say, there it is. He left, not me. So I don't want to hear, oh, a rematch or whatever." All right. Searsight, $5 says, "Good afternoon, Rob." Good afternoon. I'm having a great afternoon. I hope you all are as well. How long, Nate? $5 says, "Looks like the chat's 85% watchers. Far too low for the fans." Yeah, get those likes up. Thank you, Nate. And then Less Than Self, $5 says, "Coleman's a great person, very reasonable. And when he believes something, he spent a lot of time thinking about it. He has good faith arguments." Excellent. I hope so. All right. Let's pull this debate up, and then we're going to get started. One more time, I'll say this. I'm not going to be interacting with the chat during the review. I promise I'll read all super chats afterwards, and I'll stick around afterwards and chat about what's going up. What I want to do is try to keep this review to about an hour, is the idea. Last time I got a little over my skis, and I ended up being 3 hours on my debate review, which was probably about 25 minutes of debate that it took me 3 hours to review. So I'm going to try. I might only review 15 minutes of this debate, and it might take me about an hour. But that's the point. Now let's bring it up. All right, so we're going to do it this way. Sorry, Coleman, I'm going to be covering your, I guess that would be your right arm. And then Kryptonite Good, thank you, $10 says, "I asked Gemini to give me an unbiased answer. Here's what Gemini Pro said after watching the 11-hour debate. Rob tactically won." Way! I knew AI was good. Those AI, sort of determinations are funny. I don't know. I always just kind of chuckle at the idea. So, all right, I'm going to get into debate review mode here. So here we have on the left of your screen will be Coleman Hughes, and this is Dave Smith on the right. I don't know Coleman very well. Dave Smith is someone I liked. So as always, it's important to say that as a debate coach and a debater, I try my best to limit my bias and try to come to as best as possible more objective reasoning for the things that I'm discussing, but it is impossible. So I just want to give that thought. I have no idea what this debate entails, really. We're going to be starting about 50 minutes in. I know that it is generally focused on foreign policy and the concept of Israel and the ethical sort of determinations of the United States working with Israel, whether that's been good, bad, etc. I'm walking in completely blind. As far as I know, I haven't seen any clips from this debate. Now, this debate was 8 months ago. However, the topic of Israel, so this would put this before Donald Trump attacking Iran. The sort of issue at hand of Israel and foreign policy, though, I think no doubt is right now, 8 months after this debate, probably the most contentious issue in the Trump administration. And so I would think, based on what I know, Coleman Hughes would be a Trump supporter or a Republican. Dave, I can't remember his exact positioning, but he certainly was at least somewhat favorable towards Trump, or at least the Trump movement going in to the 2024 election. I believe I've seen him say in other areas that he regrets that decision, and I believe that's largely because of what he views as Trump's stance on Israel and Trump's stance on foreign policy. In particular, Dave, who comes from a more libertarian type perspective, would be someone who's a non-interventionist and would be very critical of these wars. So even in this discussion from 8 months prior, I think that you'll see the importance to current day. We are filming this in June 6, 2026, why this debate is going to be so important today. Now, it's going to be difficult to determine whether each side would have changed their position, but it's interesting to go back to recent debates like this and see if current events kind of shows that one side was more correct than the other, or if there's anything that maybe would add or subtract to some of the arguments they made. My goal here is not to really as much take a side, though that's inevitable, I will, on which side of the argument's correct, but to try to give a perspective as a former collegiate debater and coach as to the strategies being utilized and who I think's being more effective in this particular meta portion of the debate. The entire debate itself looks to be about 3 hours. We're not going to cover all of that. I had people reach out to me and offer this as an important debate, and this being an important part of the debate. And so we've skipped ahead to about 50 minutes. I've not seen this. My feelings on the United States relationship with Israel is somewhere in the middle. I think that Israel, along with many other countries, have too much influence on our country. But I also think there are people that go way overboard in thinking that Israel is responsible for everything. I myself am not a big fan of Trump's attack on Iran. However, it isn't enough to get me to no longer support Trump. So I'm sort of in the middle on this issue, and I think that'll help me maybe be a little more objective in sort of the presentation that comes through. So, all right, let's start and see what we have to offer.
The blowback they will get. Can you point to any time? So it's not.
No, I'm not. Yeah, okay, but I'm not suggesting that that no regional powers will exert influence over their realm of their sphere of influence. Like, of course not. But I'm also seeing right now, Vladimir Putin is limping through his third year in a war with Ukraine. I don't see him as being a threat to dominate Europe anytime soon. The rest of Europe is all against him and much wealthier and much stronger than him. China is more of a power.
Even in that argument, you concede implicitly that if they were less strong, for instance, if they didn't have all the backing of the United States, that he could expand, and that would be the natural tendency throughout all of human history.
Now, it's interesting. Already I could see sort of how they get to this place in the debate. And basically the question becomes, when is there a role for sort of U.S. deterrence and sort of preemptively taking actions that would stop regional powers from escalating, which then could cause instability in the region, and then probably cause a more severe situation that may mean the United States gets drug in a more significant way. Dave's point is, look, we overhype that. We see people say that with Russia, and he's right, by the way. People would say, well, we got to keep feeding Ukraine this money because if not, Russia will, expand into NATO countries, and then we'll find ourselves, treaty obligated to directly declare war in Russia. So better to fight them over there so we don't have to fight them over here. Coleman makes the argument, but you've sort of conceded that, implicitly, that there are regional actors that are deigned to do that are deigned to keep going on. So it's really a question of, if we acknowledge that these sort of actors are capable of doing this, where is the threshold for where we should interact? And that's going to be the interesting part of this debate. Most people, I think, would admit at some point there is room for U.S. action. There's probably very few people, even myself, that would maybe colloquially be called a non-interventionist. There's clearly times I would think it's worth the United States intervening. I just think that it's been overutilized, which has led to a bunch of interventions that have been sold to us under false premises, which I think have ended up negatively. And Coleman's going to make the argument yeah, but you wouldn't say that you would never intervene. So if we could argue in specific cases that intervention was worth it, why should we reject it just out of some, phony moral principle of intervention's bad? So that's my understanding of probably how we got to this portion. And let's see what Dave responds with here.
I'm not conceding that that's necessarily the natural tendency, but sure, if Ukraine was weaker, he would be able to have defeated the country quicker. I'll certainly grant that.
It's not the natural tendency. So you don't agree with the Mearsheimer guys that believe great powers have a default tendency to expand up to the limit of the resistance against them?
Well, listen, certainly I think every organization has a desire to expand. I mean, this is true in general of businesses, of countries. So they're always trying to expand, not necessarily territorially. And I do think that a country like China who is kind of known for playing the long game, even in their kind of crazy centrally controlled method. No, I don't think that they're watching America going bankrupt, fighting all of these wars and saying, oh, we got to get in on all that action. I think that, so essentially, yeah, I would probably agree with much of what John Mearsheimer says in the sense that it is the way of the world that great powers will have their realm of influence. I do think that's true. But looking at the world right now, I mean, it's just, I find this to be kind of a silly thing where we become the world empire, we bully the entire world, and then we sit there being worried that someone else is going to start doing this, whereas China has adversaries all around it. China has to contend with Japan and South Korea. It's not so obvious that they just take over the world. And no, I just essentially, no, I'm a George Washingtonian on this. I think that America, we struggle enough with just doing liberty right here. That should be our focus. And no, I don't think, like, I think you can trade with the world and be friends with the world. And yes, it will suck to be a little country next to a bigger, much stronger country. That's already true. That's true with America.
So, I actually think this is a pretty good answer by Dave. You could argue that it's a bit mealy-mouthed. That's okay. I get mealy-mouthed as well. But what he does is he says, what you're asking me is about a general principle. Generally, do great powers seek to expand? Sure, I could agree with that. However, when we look at the specific right now, I don't think, looking at the more specific evidence, that it justifies sort of the situation that Coleman would be talking about of perhaps more U.S. interventionism. And he says, that's because although there is a principle that great powers expand, the problem is, right now, the expansion that we would see from countries like China, etc., they're not really in a position that they would be interested in expanding in the here and now. Now, you may say he needs to give more details. That's fine. But setting up the framework in this sort of discussion for that, it's always a good thing to say more specified evidence to the situation that you're talking about. And so you could say, well, in general, shouldn't you as a homeowner do this? And you might be like, yeah, that makes sense. That's a general principle. But then you'd say, yes, but in my specific home, because the situation is different, maybe my home's built more onto a hillside. So what we just suggested generally doesn't apply in this specific situation. So it's a very good sort of debate tactic to be able to hone in and understand how you could accept something as a normal rule of thumb general principle, but there are times when that doesn't apply. And here is the specific situation why that wouldn't apply now. He then makes two other arguments, both of which I think are fine arguments to be made. The first is, look, the United States is sort of engaged in a hypocrisy where they themselves are the great power that's expanding, and then saying, but we have to expand because if we don't, the other great power will expand, which sort of creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. And then he makes the argument, and by the way, we have enough trouble struggling with matters back at home. So instead of being concerned about, like, will China go into Taiwan? Well, will Russia continue to expand into NATO? Maybe we should be focusing on domestic problems, such as securing our border, other such things that Dave would probably be interested in. So holistically, a pretty decent answer, thin on specific details, granted, but they haven't really hammered down. So I would say, even though we're starting 50 minutes into a debate, normally it's a good idea to have an overview to sort of explain, sort of like when you're reading a paper, like a research paper, and they'll have an abstract at the beginning that sort of explains all of the details you'll find, or a summary. That's sort of what Dave's doing here. It's not the overview of the debate, but it's the overview of this meta point. So he outlines sort of these three key rejections of that. Yes, one may be true in the general, but in this specific situation, no. Second, the United States is itself that exclusive power that's hypocritical, better head to focus on domestication. And I think that's a good strategy.
We're more guilty making it such a country than any of them. So I don't find any of that stuff compared.
Okay, let's move on, because there are other topics.
So Coleman moves on, but for that specific position, previous to that, know exactly what was said, but I don't think Dave did poorly at all. And Coleman moving on, the feeling I'm with just in this portion of the debate is that it's not necessarily that Coleman concedes or that, but as an audience member, I'm like, that's a pretty reasonable point. And,